We've got from Kiru Legion, who says, "Hey guys, saw the title, wanted to ask if you think part of the negative view in things like cash shops has something to do with some players being an older / past gamer mindset, like the original COD versus the newest." Certainly, yeah. If you're playing Call of Duty 2, where your entire life is Tujan rifles, you know, it's going to be very weird if you see a modern Call of Duty game. And certainly, I think there's a degree of that. Those of us who, you know, it's like I remember playing Pokemon Ruby when it was new, playing Age of Empires 2 when it was vaguely new, right? So whenever I grew up in gaming, like, we were there for the first DLC in Horse Armor.
Oh, that was
we were there.
A moment, like, that was a moment in time.
We now know that's a big moment in time, but we were there for that. So we have all these expectations. And, you know, I think we're also from a bunch, we're people who we thought about DLC. We're like, oh, cool. That's like a miniature expansion. I really like expansion packs for my games. DLC seems great. And for a little bit it was. And then, I mean, not with Horse Armor, but actually Oblivion did have some pretty good DLCs.
Yeah, the Shivering Isles, wasn't it?
It was the Shivering Isles, and then even, you know, like the Mage Tower and stuff was all pretty cool.
Even looking at like the Warcraft franchise itself, I remember going in, spending 20 quid on the Frozen Throne. That was a steal. That was an absolute steal.
Yeah, so I actually think it is a bit of that. It's a few things, the negativity towards cash shops, because a lot of that's going to depend on what you actually think you're getting out of the game. So I think it is basically objective fact that the Final Fantasy XIV cash shop is egregious. It is so much more egregious and full of what I would call, I guess, as some form of traditional-ish gamer, bullshit.
Of course. Absolutely.
Bullshit. Like, it's like half that store exists to sell you bikinis. And then there's people who say, well, you know, loads of those items are they're from like past events, you know, and I'm like, that doesn't change anything. In fact, it actually makes it a bit worse that it's something that is earnable in game that you can buy in a store. But I think what happened there is Final Fantasy XIV is basically just seemingly so full of content and has such a high satisfaction rate for its user base that they're okay to look past that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's why the Horse Armor was very, very funnily a Trojan horse, because everything that followed up as a result of that has, as we know, has become a complete nightmare hellscape for all gamers that exist. Everything is just money, 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 money. Experience? Value? No, buy shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that was a bit of a shitty product in an otherwise okay. Elder Scrolls games, full of bugs. We laugh at them all the time. But Oblivion was a groundbreaking experience at the time. Going, $4 for a horse armor? That's a bit shit, but the game's fine.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think we would be as mad overall if games weren't being, or at least we didn't have the perception that games were being completely, like, the ass pulled out of them just to jam some stuff up there.
I think the reason why it gets people with World of Warcraft is it's like you're sitting there, you're playing the game, you really feel like it has too many issues than is acceptable. You're still paying your subscription fee, and I think that's a big thing, that the sub fee's being paid.
Massive.
So you kind of feel like you're not getting the best out of your sub fee because there's a bunch of silly issues in the game, and then the store mounts come out and they're really expensive. And you're like, well, what am I paying for? What am I getting out of this? I think that's more a symptom of generalized user satisfaction. Now, there's always going to be people who are just going to be diehard hating that no matter what. Yeah. Which, you know, fine, whatever. People have their opinions. I would say that I would not mind that much if everything else in the game was going in a really good direction. And also if there's one more thing. And this is what pissed me off. I remember doing a big rant video about it. And I actually think I remember talking about this on a live stream with Asmongold and Heel vs. Babyface back in 2014, 15. This is way back in the day, and that was it was like, there's us, there's like my Calric, Noble, all of them were sort of different stages, I guess. But I remember seeing the Fey Dragon and thinking, oh, that's a bit suspicious. And then finding the Dracorium in Shadow Moon Valley, the bit where the Draenei, you know, do their stuff with their Fey Dragon, right? They raise them. And this is the thing that really fucked it up for me. In a past expansion, to get that Fey Dragon, you would have been doing something like Netherwing or Cloud Serpent with that faction. So to me, it basically felt like content. What should have been content in the game was put onto the store. And one of the things that would have driven my gameplay at that period of time was the collection. You know, in Miss Pandaria, I really enjoyed getting my Cloud Serpents. But it felt like a thing that could have been a cool reward that I could have got in-game, that narratively speaking was actually there in a place in that zone. It felt like that was ripped away from me in terms of content and put onto the store. That left a really sour taste in my mouth. And since then, I have found, I think, quite a few instances where the store mounts actually, they do feel like things that thematically and stuff like that should be in the game. And basically, since that instance with the Dracorium and the Fey Dragon mount, we actually haven't really had like traditional mount reputations like we used to have in the past. So for me, that's like a sort of a specific part of it that I think that's what ticked me off the most personally.
Oh, that's like that's actually interesting because I was in that area and I don't think I remember that being in my head when I was playing Warlords, but now I'm thinking about that area. I'm like, yeah, because I bought the Fey Dragon eventually because I really liked how it actually went with how it actually looks on a couple of things, especially with the Sprite Darter set. Kill me where I sit, but there's because there was the shattered hand. What they called? No, that's the Orc clan.
Yeah.
The Shatari.
Yeah.
They had a rep there, and they had a lot shittier mounts. I believe it was like the Elec that couldn't fly. That was, slightly different from the other Elecs. And they had some of that content, but if they just had an additional one there.
Yeah. So that is that's basically my response to that, Alex. Not Alex, Kira. Yeah, good question. I think a lot of it's mindset, and then specifically for World of Warcraft, for me, it was feeling like stuff was ripped out of the game and put onto the store instead. That's what ticked it off. So from Dan Ballantyne, who says, "What do you? This would blow up TBC. What do you think the chances are of future attunement shop items? This is very clearly a stepping stone into more opportunity for profit. I think they will never touch gameplay.
Not a chance.
But an attunement store never will happen. 100% never will happen. I would actually say, do not worry about that. And like, this is the sort of thing, if they did that, I mean, I'm not literally going to eat my shoe, but I figuratively would. But no, I really don't think Blizzard would do that at all, basically. I don't think they would. Now, what we talked about earlier is what they could maybe do, which would be a bit more things like, will they just sort of think, will they think that like, oh, well, in the past, the TGC stuff was something people would enter the credit card into eBay to get so they could have a cool looking thing in WoW. Why don't we in Phase 2 or Phase 3 add in the in-game store with something like that? You could see them making that internal justification that it was kind of happening in TBC, and then basically just use that to, sell people the cosmetics. That I could see happening. I would say I would be slightly surprised and disappointed, but I think it's within the realms of possibility based on them making a brand new, basically a store mount for the Burning Crusade, which they did. So, could see it happening.
100%. 100%.